The cry came from beneath the porch, thin, desperate and fading fast. Farmer Tom dropped his tools and knelt, heart pounding. Under the broken steps, something small struggled in the mud. A fox kit, soaked to the bone, sides heaving, eyes wide with fear. It was too young to be alone, too weak to survive the cold. Tom hesitated. Foxes didn't come this close to the farmhouse unless they were desperate. He reached forward, but before he could touch it, a golden shape brushed past his arm. Daisy. Wait. His retriever slipped under the steps, tail wagging slowly and low. The fox whimpered once, too tired to fight. Daisy sniffed, then carefully took it by the scruff. Not like prey but like something precious. Tom could only watch as she carried the trembling kid up the porch steps and straight into the house. By the time Tom caught up, Daisy had already set the kit down near the fireplace. She hovered over it, licking its ears clean, nudging it closer to the warmth. Tom knelt beside them. The little creature was trembling violently, its paws caked with mud, ribs sharp beneath damp fur. Poor thing, he murmured. You're half frozen. He wrapped it in a towel and placed it in a cardboard box lined with rags. Daisy refused to leave, resting her chin on the edge of the box, eyes fixed on the tiny life inside. That night, the wind howled through the shutters. But inside, the house stayed quiet. Just the crackle of fire and the soft sound of Daisy's breathing. When Tom checked before bed, the fox was asleep against her paw. Well, he whispered with a tired smile. Looks like you've made yourself a promise, old girl. The days that followed blurred into a rhythm of feeding, cleaning, and waiting. Tom fed the fox kit with a bottle every few hours. Goat's milk warmed on the stove, while Daisy handled the rest. She licked its fur dry after every feeding, barked softly when it wandered too far, and curled around it each night as though it were her own pup. The sound of her heartbeat seemed to steady the little creature's breathing. Tom named the fox Rusty for the color that began to bloom beneath the grime. Bright orange like sunlight through autumn leaves. At first, Rusty could barely stand. He'd wobble, trip over his own paws, and squeak in frustration until Daisy nosed him gently back onto his feet. Tom found himself laughing more than he had in months. Small, quiet bursts that filled the kitchen like light. As Rusty grew stronger, the house felt different. It wasn't just a farmhouse anymore, it was alive with play. Daisy and Rusty darted between chair legs, sliding across the wooden floor, knocking over Tom's boots in wild chases. When Daisy chased butterflies across the field, Rusty followed, tumbling more than running. When she dug at the garden edge, he dug too, scattering soil in every direction. When Tom whistled for Daisy at dusk, two shapes came trotting back instead of one. The neighbors started stopping by to see the pair. "You're raising trouble," one of them laughed, shaking his head. Tom smiled. "Maybe," he said. "But sometimes trouble's worth it." By midsummer, Rusty's legs had grown long and lean, his coat gleaming copper in the sunlight. But something in his gaze had changed. He looked toward the woods more often now, ears flicking toward the calls of his kind. Tom noticed it too. "He's getting restless," he said softly one evening, patting Daisy's head. She glanced up, then back at the fox asleep beside her, her eyes full of something like understanding. When the day finally came, it was quiet. Tom opened the gate. Rusty hesitated only once, turning to press his nose against Daisy's muzzle, memorizing her scent. Then he slipped into the tall grass and vanished into the wild. Daisy stayed at the fence long after he was gone, watching the place where the forest had swallowed him whole. Life on the farm settled into a quieter rhythm. Daisy returned to her rounds, herding hens, guarding the barn, waiting by the porch every evening for Tom to finish chores. Yet some nights, when the air grew still, she would wander to the fence line and stand there for a long while, her nose lifted toward the woods as if catching a scent she remembered. Tom noticed. "He's out there somewhere," he'd whisper. "Bet he's got a family of his own now." Seasons turned. Summers bled into winters. Snow fell, melted, and fell again. Rust gathered on the old plow, and the paint on the barn door began to peel. Daisy slowed down. Her muzzle turned gray, her steps less certain, her naps a little longer. Still she waited, every day in her own quiet way, as though time itself were holding its breath. 3 years passed. One spring evening, as the sun sank low and the air smelled of grass and rain, Tom sat on the porch with a cup of coffee gone cold. Daisy lay at his feet, half asleep, her tail tapping the boards in lazy rhythm. Then she lifted her head. Her ears pricked, her gaze locked on the far edge of the field. The wind shifted. Tom followed her line of sight. Something moved through the tall grass. Silent, sure, a streak of orange slipping between shadow and light. A fox stepped into the open. Rusty's ears twitched at the voice. Then he turned, padding toward the woods. Daisy took a step after him, stopped, and sat down, her head tilted. Tom watched until the fox disappeared among the trees. That night, Daisy lay by the porch door, staring at the fields. The frogs were singing again, the storm smell long gone. Tom sat beside her, scratching behind her ears. "You did well, girl," he whispered. "You taught him what it means to love something wild. And then let it go." Her eyes closed, content. Outside, the forest hummed with life. One voice missing yet never really gone. Every spring after that, a fox came to the fence at dusk. Sometimes Tom saw it. Sometimes only Daisy did. But she always rose, ears perked, tail wagging in slow, steady rhythm. Rusty never crossed the fence again. He didn't need to. They would simply stand there for a few minutes, guardian and grown child, wild and tame, breathing the same air. And when the sun slipped behind the hills, the fox would vanish back into the woods, and Daisy would settle once more by the porch, her heart at peace.